Well, joining me now, I am glad to have a great friend of ours, Congressman Jim Jordan from the state of Ohio, also chairman of the Republican Study Committee, the conservative caucus in the House.
Good to be with you, Tony. Thank you.
Also a champion wrestler too.
Washed up has been, some would say, but we're trying to make it here.
You look like you stay in good
shape.
You
got 4 kids. You have to stay in shape.
I know. I got
you got
5.
like 10 or 12. Don't you?
No, not yet. Not yet. Look, what are we looking at? What's going to happen?
Well, you know, look, Chuck Schumer is playing politics at a time when the future of the country is at stake. They keep talking about shutdown. We'll see. I think we got to fight the fight. I think we got to get to close to midnight Friday to get the best kind of deal. So we'll see what the Senate does.
I mean, you have been in a lot of the meetings. I've talked to a number of the members, talked to them every day, but you've been in the private meetings. From what I've picked up on, there's nobody on the Republican side of the aisle that's cheering for a government shutdown.
No.
It looks like everything possible is being done to avoid that.
That's exactly the case. But and as we go into this struggle, we've got to have the courage, the discipline, the toughness to say we want to get the full amount of savings for the American taxpayer, $61 billion, and we want to fight for the good policy initiatives that will protect human life, that will make sure your tax dollars aren't being used to further implement Obamacare. We got to have the courage and discipline to stand tough on those things. I had, maybe I've shared this with you before, I had a coach, and you mentioned wrestling, my high school wrestling coach, amazing guy. Talked about discipline every single day. He's the toughest teacher in our school, taught chemistry and physics, toughest wrestling coach in the state of Ohio. And you know, he said, Jordan, you want to do well in my class? This is chemistry. You got to be disciplined about preparation, disciplined about how you participate in class, about your homework. In the wrestling room, he talked about discipline every single day. I got sick of hearing about it, but he had a great definition. He said, discipline's doing what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it. And basically that meant doing things coach's way, when you'd rather do them the easy way, when you'd rather do them the convenient way. We're at the same situation here in the United States, Congress. So many politicians want to do things the convenient way. The convenient thing is, oh, let's just take a deal from the president. The tough thing, the disciplined thing is say, no, we're going to fight for exactly what the voters sent us here to do, which is to get as much savings as we possibly can for the American taxpayer, and fight to protect the sanctity of human life, fight to make sure Obamacare isn't funded. We've got to be willing to do that. And if it means going into a slowdown, means going into a shutdown, we've got to be willing to go there. Because until you get there, I don't think you can get a good deal for the American taxpayer.
Now, today, Congressman Ryan revealed the Republicans' budget, unveiled the Republicans' budget. The Republican Study Committee is also working on some budget principles of their own. Is your budget going to go further?
Yeah, I mean, Paul's got some good ideas, very good ideas. I mean, what he's wanting to do on tax reform, what he wants to do to preserve and strengthen and save Medicare. The same with Social Security and Medicaid. You know, look, those entitlements are the real debt drivers in our budget. We've got to change those, but we also got to protect them and save them. And so he's got great plans in his budget, but what we do is basically speed up what he's implementing because we think it's important to get to balance. And we have historically done a budget, the Republican Study Committee. Ours always gets to balance within what I call a reasonable period of time, what a family would have to do if they were faced with these kind of economic circumstances. And so we're going to do the same. We plan to unveil that in a couple days. And we think it will be well received by conservatives and regular tax-paying families across this country because they have to do exactly the same thing. You know, well, think about it. Here's what the federal government's doing. It's a family making $50,000 a year but spending $80,000. And the federal government does it year after year after year. And a family realizes you can't do that. And maybe some of that additional $30,000 they're spending their money on might be good things.
Good stuff.
Might be good stuff that actually, you know, helps their kids or family time, whatever. Could be good things. But you can't keep doing it. And we're faced with the same situation. And we got to have the discipline, the courage to do what families have been doing, what small business owners have been doing, and say, look, we got to change behavior here. And the good news is, I think for the first time that I've been in elective office, the American people are ready for the tough love solutions. They're receptive to the tough love things that need to be done to fix the place. The central question is, are the politicians? Can we live up to the standard American families have displayed the last couple of years? I think we can, but the test is happening right now, this week.
Well, you bring that up. Let me ask you that. Are some of your colleagues approaching this decision thinking, how's this going to affect us at election time, or are they just kind of, you know, putting their head down saying we got to do it?
Both. I mean, look, I'll be honest. Politicians are politicians, and you know, what's always on politicians' mind is the next election to some degree. But we have a lot of principled people, as you know, who are here for the right reason. Many of them are this freshman class, are in this freshman class, and they're here to fix the country because they care about the well-being of their kids and their grandkids, and they love this nation. You know, I had the opportunity 2.5 weeks ago. We were in Philadelphia I was there for the NCAA wrestling tournament, and between sessions, had the opportunity to go to Independence Hall. And you walk in there, and you look at where Adams was sitting, where Franklin was sitting, where Jeffrey, you may have been there.
Been there.
And you go through that, and you think about what these guys did when they put it all on the line to start a place where liberty and freedom really mattered. And as you're in that room, and it's a relatively small place, as you know, you start thinking about, you know what, we've got to be willing to have the same courage that they displayed, that they exercised there, and making sure we keep the promises that they envisioned this country would offer its citizens, that we keep them in place for our kids and our grandkids. And really, that's what it's about. And as I said, I think there are enough members of Congress who get it, and certainly the American people do.
I've got a couple of minutes. You have time for just a couple of questions that have come in from our viewers. One says, they asked this question, with 183 countries receiving foreign aid, why not trim the list, reduce or eliminate the aid instead of putting the burden of balancing the federal budget solely on the backs of the American people?
Yeah, good question.
And I'd add to that, I just saw recently where Hillary Clinton pledged, I think it was $80 billion to Egypt for economic development. Yeah,
look, the Journal, the Wall Street Journal had a piece on this yesterday. We got to rethink foreign aid, and they specifically had it focused on the Middle East, and particularly which countries are truly can be helpful to the United States interests, which countries can actually truly be helpful to our #1 ally in the region, the state of Israel. So it's definitely something we need to look at and see if we can achieve some savings there. But the truth is, the entire budget has to be on the table. The numbers we're talking, a $1.6 trillion deficit, third year in a row we've run over $1 trillion deficit, $14 trillion national debt. The month of February alone, we ran $220 billion. 1 month, $220 billion in debt. And Chuck Schumer says $61 billion in savings in this budget negotiation we're in is extreme. It's approximately 1/4 of February's monthly budget. So we've got to look at everything and begin to put this country on a path that makes sense. And that's what we're doing. That's what our budget will do. And that's why this fight, while it's relatively speaking, this $61 billion, a small amount number compared to the big picture numbers, it's still $61 billion. And it's still the important first step, you know. And it's like, if you can't win the small things, if you can't be faithful and tough in the small things, are you going to be there for the big things? So we think we got to win.
Got to walk before you can run.
Exactly right.
Well, that's what you're going to be doing. What do the American people need to be doing to support you all in that effort?
Look, our task is simple. I mean, every time I'm out in the district, someone will walk up to me almost every single time, and they'll say, "We're praying for you and your family." And it's humbling to know that people are taking time to pray for, you know, a country boy who happens to be in Congress and our family. And I appreciate that so much. But our charge is simple. Our charge is what Paul said to Timothy: fight the good fight, finish the course, keep the faith. And that's our charge, to do those things, do it in a compelling and articulate way as a member of Congress, but do it because that's what we're here for. And in the end, we're going to be able to say, hopefully, just what those guys in Independence Hall understood. We're making sure this is the greatest experiment in liberty the human race has ever known.
Congressman Jim Jordan,
thank you.
Thanks for
Thanks
making
for all
time
you're doing
for us.